Anti-vaxxer Frankenstein's monster was not something that was on my bingo card when I started watching all these movies.
Let's just say I'm Frankenstein's monster.
Say it out loud.
Frankenstein!
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein!
My name, it's pronounced Frankenstein.
Okay, welcome back to Franken-Fridays. Today we are talking about Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, with your boy Kenneth Branagh as the good doctor and Robert De Niro as the monster. This was part of the 90s somewhat renaissance of classic horror monster movies. This one is also produced by Francis Ford Coppola along with his Dracula movie. And there was a few of these in the 90s that are kind of weirdly forgotten. Like the Dracula movie, people kind of remember, but there was a werewolf movie with Jack Nicholson, there was an Invisible Man of some kind, and this Frankenstein movie, which I feel like people don't really talk about that much. I really fucking loved this one. I kind of think it's great. It's easily been one of my favorites so far. It's also stuck the closest to the book of any of the movies. There are a few additions and a few changes to the book, but I feel like they all enhance the story and make it better. A bunch of talented people worked on this. Kenneth Branagh, of course. We got Coppola producing. The screenplay was co-written by Frank Darabont, who did The Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile, the first season of The Walking Dead. And the cast is crazy too. Obviously Robert De Niro and Kenneth Branagh. We got Helena Bonham Carter as Elizabeth / the bride. Ian Holm is in there.
Today is my 111th birthday!
John Cleese is in there briefly. Great cast all around. And one of the cool things is that this one has a big budget. There's these crazy huge sets. There's a ton of big sweeping crane shots and helicopter shots. There's a ton of stuff shot on location. Visuals of this movie are just gorgeous. And it has this real energy to it. They do a lot of the scenes in one take or very few takes, which gives it this kind of stage play quality to it, which sort of makes sense. Kenneth Branagh has a theater Shakespeare background, but it also gives the whole movie this energy. It's constantly moving and flowing, and everything is over dramatic and larger than life. This is not a subtle take on the Frankenstein story. It is big and bombastic. It has this crazy over the top score by Peter Doyle, which sometimes totally works and sometimes I feel is maybe too much. There's a ton of visuals in this movie that I noticed were very similar to stuff that we see in the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein trailer, and you can very clearly tell that this movie is going to be a big inspiration on del Toro's Frankenstein, with just a lot of the ways shots are composed and specific imagery. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is things from the book and from the story of Frankenstein as well. So, did Frankenstein rip off Frankenstein? Of course, there's going to be similarities between versions, but so far, of the ones I've seen, this one has the most shots and specific compositions of shots and certain elements that feel most similar to a lot of the imagery we see in the Del Toro trailer. I also weirdly kind of started to notice a lot of, this is one thing I was sort of thinking about while watching the movie, is that there's kind of a lot of parallels between Frankenstein and Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. And I'm sure this comparison has been made before in some capacity. There's a lot of obvious things, we have both Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee show up as characters in the Star Wars movies, who of course were in a Frankenstein movie. Christopher Lee's name is literally Count Dooku, which is less of a change from Count Dracula than Nosferatu is. But in this big Shakespearean larger-than-life take on Frankenstein, they really emphasize a lot of the points that kind of end up being major parts of the prequel saga in Star Wars. Frankenstein starts off his journey of trying to discover how to create life when his mother dies, much like Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, Mother. You
You should never have died. I wasn't strong enough to save you, Mom. I will stop this. I promise. But I promise I won't fail again.
That's a big part of his journey, looking into the dark side of science, where he wants to stop death and create life. And then most of his professors at university are like, there are certain forces that you shouldn't try to play with. The dark side is a path to many abilities that some consider to be unnatural.
How close did you get, Professor?
Too close.
Is it possible to learn this power? Not from a Jedi.
And then, of course, things get darker and darker as he creates a guy from various mangled pieces of corpses, much like how Darth Vader is reborn after he loses all his limbs. The shot of him, coming up from the table is very clearly influenced from Frankenstein. We have other little motifs too, like the fire. Fire is a big motif in this one. It's been a thing in the other Frankenstein movies too. And then fire, of course, is the thing that creates Darth Vader as well. Victor Frankenstein has a weird relationship with his adopted sister, Elizabeth. And they're friends from a young age, but then when they're adults, they fall in love, and it's a little bit creepy.
Are you my sister?
Sister. Friend. Lover.
And it's definitely creepy in the book as well. But even that felt a little bit familiar in Star Wars, where Anakin falls in love with this girl who's definitely a few years older than him when he's a little kid. And then they fall in love later when they're both adults. And it's a little bit weird because she's still I still think of you as a little boy, and then they get together. So yeah, even that, kind of a relationship that starts in a weird, creepy place and ends in tragedy with the girl dying. That's also kind of in this, and this was just a few years before episode 1 of The Phantom Menace. So I dare hypothesize that this specific version of Frankenstein kind of had a big influence on the prequels.
Anakin. Breaking my heart.
Anyways, but one thing that this one does differently from the book, which I really liked, was it combines the Elizabeth and the bride character, which is such a smart choice. So the monster kills Frankenstein's younger brother. This is all from the book. And then he goes to Victor and he's like, hey, I'm going to keep killing people you love unless you make me a bride. And Frankenstein's like, okay, as long as you promise to leave society and stop bothering me. But then he changes his mind, is like, no, never mind, I don't want to do that. Elizabeth, let's just run. Let's just get out of here. There's a guy after us. I can't explain it, but eventually I will. Just trust me. The monster's like, well, fuck you. I'm gonna kill your wife then. And he does. And she gets fucked up and lit on fire a little bit, so she looks kind of fucked up a bit. And then Frankenstein's like, well, screw this. I already know how to create life, so I'm gonna bring her back. Which adds a whole other dark element to it. Because also at this point, he's already he's done the whole, what have I done? I may have gone too far in a few places by creating the monster in the first place. So to see him go down this dark path again is more tragic because he knows it's a bad idea. We get this beautiful, horrifying sequence where there's sort of a weird love triangle between Victor the monster and Elizabeth, now resurrected as the bride. And of course, Helena Bonham Carter is the perfect person for this role, with her weird big head and her weird bigger hair. Excellent casting. She gets to be a corpse bride. Hooray. Tim Burton was furious that he wasn't involved in this movie. And yeah, it just ends in horror and tragedy. Big drama. Lots of people getting lit on fire. It's great. It's all great stuff. I loved it. We also get to see the ship in the Arctic, which is from the book. This is a framing device used in the book where we start with these letters from the ship captain who's exploring the Arctic, and he comes across both Victor and the monster. And this is late in the story. Victor is pursuing the monster into the Arctic to try to kill him. He's lost everything, and then he's like, let me tell you my story. And they do a really smart thing here, which they draw a direct parallel between Victor and this ship captain, Walden, I think is his name, and how Walden's also this guy who's driven by the discoveries of science and becoming obsessed with his work, pursuing greatness at the cost of other people's lives. And by the end of the movie, after hearing Frankenstein's story, he has sort of a change of heart and decides to take his crew back home. It parallels Victor's story of him going too far with science and creating an abomination and causing the deaths of people, all the people he loves and cares about. It's all really great stuff. What else? There's a few other things. Oh, I really liked that in this one they go deeper into like the scientific sci-fi elements. We learn a little bit more about how bringing someone to life stuff works. Barely go into this at all in the book. I think in one of the later editions they introduced the galvanization lightning idea. But in this one we spend like a lot more time with Victor doing research and trying different stuff. He gets like into Eastern medicine, and so like acupuncture becomes like an element of the science, which I think is cool. I loved all the like crazy set design of everything, of how everything works. And you have to like jam different electrodes into various like pressure points on the body. He has to like steal amniotic fluid because for some reason it has some component that is necessary to create life or to rebirth someone from the dead. He has this crazy copper thing. He has to be completely shirtless for the creating of the monster for some reason, but it's so over the top that I kind of love it. And then when he makes the monster, he's just like slipping and sliding on all this gross amniotic fluid, and it just looks dumb and goofy, but I think it's on purpose. I think it's to like show how Victor comes to realize like, this is fucking stupid. What the hell am I doing? I was trying to make the perfect guy and he could barely stand up and everything's covered in slime. This was a bad idea. This was a stupid idea. I regret everything, and it's great. I guess I'll talk a little bit about Robert De Niro. Interesting casting choice. I don't know if it fully works. I think he does a good job in the role. He's doing a very different kind of role than you're used to seeing from him, but I was also like a little bit distracted by him just being like, that's Robert De Niro, where everyone else feels like pretty natural because they're playing like the types of roles they typically play. Helena Bonham Carter is often in like some kind of weird gothic horror thing. Kenneth Branagh being this over-the-top Shakespearean-esque type of guy fits pretty well. Robert De Niro's kind of almost out of place. Like he's also one of the only like American actors in the movie, so that feels a little strange. Although this could be an intentional choice in order to make the monster feel more otherworldly and like he doesn't belong. I think the makeup and everything looks fucking awesome. Like he has one discolored eye, which I think is always a cool choice. And just all the like scars and everything look incredible. We also see a little bit of the monster before he dies, which is interesting. Victor's working at this clinic where they're like giving out the smallpox vaccine. And De Niro's pre-monster character is there and he's like, fuck you, I don't want a vaccine. I don't trust it. And he ends up like stabbing one of Victor's professors and then he gets hanged for murder. And yeah, I don't know, anti-vaxxer Frankenstein's monster was not something that was on my bingo card when I started watching all these movies. So that's an interesting choice. But there is a really great scene later when Frankenstein confronts Victor and he's like, why did you make me? Like, why am I like this? Did I learn to speak, or did I just remember it from part of my past life? Like, I don't know what I am. I don't understand. He's figured out how to play this like flute, and he's like, but like, how do I know how to play the flute? Do my hands remember that? Does my brain remember it? Is it something else? What part of me knows how to play it? I don't know. What the fuck am I? And it's really compelling and asking all the interesting questions, and Victor's so fucking like I don't know, dude. I regret doing this. This was a bad idea. I don't have any answers for you. I made a guy and did not consider the implications whatsoever. But there's some really compelling stuff here. I really dug this movie. I think it's a really, really great both adaptation of the story, but also bringing in some new elements that I think enhance it. I like seeing more of the process of Victor learning about science. I like the balance of real scientific ideas, but elevated to a science fiction type level. I love the whole cinematography and direction of everything. Everything is so heightened and over the top. The performances are big and bombastic. The score is crazy. I just really, really dug everything this movie was doing. I think it kind of slaps. Easily one of my top Frankenstein movies, at least that I've seen so far. So that's Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's a good one. Definitely a high recommend for me. That's it for this episode. Tune in next time where we're gonna keep going through as many Frankenstein movies as I can in the build-up to Del Toro's Frankenstein later this year. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell and all of those things. Hopefully see you next time. Bye-bye.